They say that if you want to sell more, just find a problem and solve it. And that's simple advice. The problem is people don't know how to do that. As a top sales keynote speaker, I was called one day by John Treace, Vice President of Sales for Xomed Surgical, to possibly give a keynote at his national sales meeting. And this was a pivotal keynote. You see, they just came out with a new machine for ear, nose, and throat surgeons. It will take 7 minutes off a surgical procedure, allowing them to operate many more times and make more money. Problem is, their biggest competitor, their option for the same machine was not as good as my clients, so the only way for them to compete was to give theirs away for free and force my client to make money on consumables. That was not acceptable. I asked them who they were looking for as a keynote speaker, and they mentioned that they were also talking to Brian Tracy. Brian is one of the top thought leaders in the world, and he's a good friend of mine. And I also knew that he would basically beat me as a keynoter versus a keynoter because of his thought leader resume. So I had to do something different. So I asked the client on the phone what his biggest issue was, and he described it to me. I said, "This is so important, why don't I come down? I'll give you my time for free if you pay my expenses. We both have skin in the game." He said, "Sure." Came down, met with his team for a day, and what we realized is that this is such a big problem that a keynote by itself will not fix the problem. He needed someone like me as a top sales consultant to go in, see the conversations these people were having live with the surgeons, and see if I could make any tweaks. I did. It worked. And then he brought me in to not only give the keynote, but the findings of my research. Well, it was such a successful venture that at the end of the day, they not only got rid of the competitor who left the space, but they were sold for $1 billion 4 years later to Medtronic. Talk about a great success. So, how did they do this? It's simple. You ready for the magical phrase? If you really want to sell more, it's not as simple as find a problem and solve it. Well, maybe it is. But the real phrase you should be operating from is create, don't compete. If all you do is compete against features, then in the end, it seems the same to the customer, and the only way for them to differentiate you is to have you beat somebody on price. That's not selling. Selling is selling on value. And so how do you do that when you have price competition? It's simple. Create. Find the gaps that are not filled, that have to be filled by your customer in order for them to get to where they want to be. Create. Fill those gaps, and you will sell more. So the phrase is create, don't compete. That's today's Velocity Mindset message. Please be good to yourself and others, and I'll see you in a couple of days.